Hello guys, welcome. So, I am a fan of Dragon Age. I know, shocker. But seriously, it is the only game series I've played entirely from start to finish multiple times. It is the only series that made me want to take a deep dive into the lore, buy and read all the physical books and comics. It's the series that made me change the way I play games. Its characters were the subject of many fun discussions, and its stories were a great new adventure to delve into when I needed a little break from reality. In short, these games mean a lot to me. And I know they mean a lot to a lot of you watching as well. And recent events have led to a lot of us worrying about the now uncertain future of Dragon Age. A few weeks ago, EA announced that BioWare has restructured to become a more agile and focused studio. The studio now reportedly has less than 100 employees, and Dragon Age as a whole has been put on ice. Which could very well mean that Veilguard is the last Dragon Age game in the franchise for a very, very long time, if not ever. This news hit the fandom pretty hard and left a lot of us feeling upset, empty, and quite frankly devastated. The future of Dragon Age is currently very uncertain, and that worries a lot of fans, me included, and understandably so. And I will go into my own feelings on all of this a little bit later in the video, but I also think it's worth remembering that despite everything, Dragon Age is still here. It's here in the games, the books, fan art, fan fiction, fan videos, and it's still here in our experiences, our memories, our stories. I'm going to be sharing a few little stories of my own, but I'm going to be sharing your stories as well. The goal of this video is to hopefully have a positive effect somehow, even if just in a small way, as well as just showing my and your appreciation for an amazingly crafted world, for the incredibly intricate characters, and for a franchise that has given us so many hours of joy and entertainment. So, grab yourself a nice warm cup of tea, and let's talk about Dragon Age. My love for Dragon Age started with the first game in the series, Dragon Age Origins. But I didn't play the game on release. I actually started playing Origins about 10 years ago, not too long after Trespasser released. Before then, I had no idea the games even existed. Or did I? My first ever memory of Dragon Age Origins is a vague memory I have from when I was around 13. I remember being in the video game section of one of the toy stores in my area. And as I was looking around, one of the PC games caught my eye. The white cover showcased a big red dragon, and it had the word dragon in the title. Now, I've loved dragons ever since I was a kid, so a video game about dragons? Hell yeah, count me in. So I decided to take a closer look and read the back of the cover to see what this game was all about. And to my 13-year-old self's disappointment, this wasn't a game about dragons. No, this was a game about some ancient order and a civil war or something. So I put the game back down and went home without thinking about it ever again. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know by... Yeah, okay, I'm kidding. So, some years later, when I was around 18 years old, I was talking to a classmate of mine at the time, and they were telling me about this video game they really liked. It was this cool fantasy game where you could fully customize your character, and your choices actually mattered, and the things you did would have consequences later on. They told me how the race and class you picked would determine which starting area you would get, and that it would have an effect on how certain characters would react to you. And then there's also these companions that travel with you in your party that you can befriend and even romance. And this game was called Dragon Age Origins. I was so amazed by everything they told me about this game, and the idea that your race and class had such a big impact on how the story starts, that not long after that conversation, I went and bought it on Steam. And I was hooked pretty much immediately. I only realized years later that this was the game I decided not to buy because a little 13-year-old me didn't think she would like it because the game's description didn't mention any dragons. Or if it did, it didn't mention them enough. And the funny thing is, Dragon Age Origins actually didn't have any dragons in it originally, but that's a story for another time. And I guess the 13-year-old me was kinda right. The game isn't really about dragons. Little did 13-year-old me know, though, that older me would absolutely fall in love with this game. I guess there were enough dragons in it after all. So, anyway, I booted up the game and got ready to create my character. I was immediately amazed by the amount of options the game gave me. Not only could I pick my race and class and customize my character's appearance, but the choices I made in character creation would impact the game itself in the form of the origin starting areas and the race and class specific dialogue options. And speaking of dialogue options, okay, this might sound dumb, but the amount of dialogue options actually amazed me back then. I had never played an RPG like Dragon Age before. The closest comparison I had was Skyrim, and while I enjoyed Skyrim quite a bit, Dragon Age just had something that Skyrim didn't. The fantastically crafted, fleshed out characters that each had their own lessons to learn and stories to tell. Each had their own reason for joining you on your journey, but they wouldn't follow you blindly. If there was anything you did that they disagreed with, they would let you know. And if you took it too far, they would leave or even attack you. But if your relationship with them was good enough, they would open up and ask you for your help with some of their personal matters. It would trigger conversations that allowed us to learn more about a character's backstory and who they were as a person. I genuinely enjoyed getting to know these characters and cared about their stories. It is one of the main aspects that made me fall in love with this series. And it was not only the characters that captivated me, it was also the world itself with all of its history and lore that caught my interest. The mystery of the Blight, the strange werewolf curse, the way magic worked, the Fade. After I finished Origins, I just wanted more of it all, and I needed to know where the story would take me next. So, I bought Dragon Age 2, and eventually Inquisition as well. I played these games pretty much back to back, and each time I started a new playthrough, I fell more in love with this world and its characters. Aside from the lore, the stories, and the characters, one of my favorite things about Dragon Age is how connected everything feels. Getting to play a new, customizable protagonist each game while still feeling that connection to the previous games is nice. We can play a completely new person, experience a new story, meet new characters, and build relationships with them. And yet, even though we are playing as a completely new person, the world we are playing in is still the same world we know and love. We meet characters that we previously met and interacted with as our previous protagonist. Events that happened that characters in this game write and talk about are things we witnessed ourselves as our previous character. Things we did in the other game affect how things are in this one. Of course, there is a bigger discussion to be had about how much your choices actually matter, but to me, just seeing these things being referenced, the little callbacks and codex entries, seeing my previous protagonist and meeting the same people they met, getting to interact with them from a different perspective but still knowing who they are, that is what makes that connection for me. It's a feeling of familiarity, comfort, nostalgia. I feel like I am part of the world. Going from game to game, protagonist to protagonist, always makes me feel reminiscent, thinking about the journey I've just been through, but also excited for what's to come next. I felt that feeling of connection and familiarity even more when I did a full read/playthrough of all main Dragon Age media that I could possibly get my hands on. If I was going to prepare myself for Dragon Age 4, I was going to do it properly, damn it. For me, that meant reading all of the Dragon Age novels and comics, doing a full, complete playthrough of my canon world state, including all DLC, doing every single quest, and collecting everything there is to collect. And doing it all from beginning to end in the chronological order of the Thedas timeline. It took me months to go through everything, but it is probably the most fun I've had with anything Dragon Age ever. It was just nice to, from the perspective of my canon characters, move through the timeline and witness all the events that would eventually lead to the next Dragon Age. As I said in the beginning of the video, Dragon Age also changed the way I play games. I used to just kind of follow the main story thread without really exploring anything, which made me completely miss Sten and Liliana the first time I played Origins. But all the genuinely compelling side quests and neat little secrets encouraged me to properly explore. Read codex entries, talk to every NPC, do every single quest available, and just try to get as much out of the game as I could. And that is just how I play games now. No more tunnel visioning the main story quests. Oh, and my obsession with elves? Yeah, it's because of Dragon Age. Look, I already loved magic, and then you add the lore and history that the elves in Dragon Age have. What was I supposed to do? Not play an elven mage in every single game whenever possible? Come on now, don't be ridiculous. The world of Dragon Age made me love these games so much that I wanted to know everything there was to know about it. It was the first game that I became genuinely invested in, and it will always have a special place in my heart for that. And now, we're here, about 10 years later. The long wait is over, and the Dragon Age 4 that we have all been waiting for so long is finally out and playable. I already made a full video on all of my thoughts and feelings on the game itself, so I'm not going to talk about that here because that's not what this video is for, and I feel like I've basically already said everything there is to be said. But I will say that when I think about Dragon Age Vilgard, especially now, I get a feeling that I can only describe as bittersweet. As many of you will likely know by now, BioWare have shifted the focus to the next Mass Effect, and currently only a core team of less than 100 people are working on the project. While some developers have left the studio of their own accord, many others did not. They were either laid off or temporarily moved onto other projects within other studios under EA, only to find out that, no, this is permanent actually. While it's probably good that the remaining developers can now fully focus on one game at a time, it seems all of the people that worked on Dragon Age no longer work for BioWare. I'm sad for the people that lost their jobs, and I hope they can all manage to find a new one where they are valued and treated with respect. One where the project they're working on actually gets the resources it needs. One where a well-loved franchise with an established identity isn't forced into being something that it was never meant to be. But I'm also sad about the ending of Dragon Age. And I'm not talking about Vilgard's ending specifically here. I'm talking about the ending for the franchise as a whole. Because that's what this is. All the signs are pointing to this being the end of the franchise, and if it ever does come back, we have no idea in what form or what that would even look like. Essentially, this is the ending of Dragon Age as we know it. And I'm not necessarily sad that this is the end. I mean, yeah, of course I'm sad. I would have loved more Dragon Age, but I'm specifically sad about, and even a little angry actually, about how and why this is the end. Vilgard wasn't intended to be the end. I don't believe that. Even if we ignore the secret ending, I believe there are more stories that the developers wanted to tell within the world of Dragon Age. Yeah, Vilgard did tie up a lot of loose ends, but this world still has so much potential for more. There was still so much left to explore. Look, my personal feelings on Vilgard and its ending aside, if the developers and writers had come out and said, like, genuinely, we have told all the stories we wanted to tell within this world, and we believe we've explored everything worth exploring, and we feel like this is a good place to end it, I'd have been like, alright, that's fine. Whatever my feelings on Vilgard's ending and the ending of the series as a whole would be, if the developers truly felt like they've told all there is to tell, I would have had peace with it, because it would be an ending on their terms. It would have given them the opportunity to fully wrap everything up and leave no loose ends, giving the franchise a conclusion that feels natural. And again, I'm talking about the franchise as a whole, not just Vilgard specifically. And I'm not saying nothing came to a natural conclusion as it is now, because, as I said, Vilgard did tie up a lot of loose ends. The point is, it would be their choice. Now it isn't. And that's such a shame, because I think there is still so much you could do with this IP, with all of the lore, the world's history spanning so many different time periods and so many characters, and it doesn't even have to be a big mainline game. How cool would it be to, like, in between big releases, get a smaller, more simple Dragon Age game like so many of us in the fandom have been wanting and wishing and hoping for years? Like that once teased Dragon Age Tactics game that unfortunately wasn't meant to be. Or a cute Dragon Age platformer puzzle game or something. Or, I don't know, give me a Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing clone and slap a coat of Dragon Age paint on it. Like, honestly, you give me Dragon Age and I'm happy. No, but in all seriousness, it's a shame that it has to end while there's still so much potential. This world, with its deep lore and rich history, and all the love and thought behind it, as well as its creators, writers, developers, artists, they all deserved better. But at the end of the day, this is what happened, and we can't change that. I wanted to talk about this because I think it's important to acknowledge what is going on with the franchise and the company that made it. And this felt like the right video to do so. And, well, this is what made me want to make this video in the first place. And I also have a lot of feelings about this, so I just wanted to rant about it, I guess. But I did say I wanted this to be a positive video, and I meant it. So, while I can't do anything about the situation, what I can do is talk about the good things, and use the rest of this video to show our appreciation for Dragon Age. But honestly, you've already heard enough from me, and now it's time to hear from you. A little while ago, I asked you to share some of your favorite Dragon Age things, moments, and memories with me, so I could share them here in this video. And so many of you did. So, let's hear what you guys love about Dragon Age. From the ending slides to Inquisition, Liliana as Divine still being seen with the hero of Ferelden is one of mine. The aggressive response near the end of Trespasser. We save Ferelden, and they're angry. We save Orlais, and they're angry. Consequently, this and the line where you disband the Inquisition are, for some reason, very cathartic to me. Becoming a Warden commander after doing the Dark Ritual. The story is not over. Every humorous line from Hawke in Dragon Age 2 is gold, but the best one for me is when they talk to themselves if you're alone at night. Just exploring an Inquisition, it was so vast with so much stuff to find, and the experience of that first unspoiled playthrough, romancing Solus with no suspicions or any inkling of what the game had in store for me. I love the banter between companions, especially in Inquisition. Also, the cutscene before the Battle of Ostagar is just so epic. Swooping is bad. Firstly, the music of Dragon Age Inquisition is just so special to me. The moment at Skyhold when they make the Inquisitor, always gives me a massive hit of endorphins. For me, in Dragon Age Origins, dog. All banter and interactions. Morgan becoming your friend. Morgan and Alistair's bickering. And Alistair falling in love with the Warden. Dragon Age 2, Meryl and the Illuvian. She's so kooky and daft. Dragon Age Inquisition, Cullen's interrupted romance scene was hilarious. Cassandra and Varric's banter was brilliant, especially swords and shields and the chasing around the table. And Dorian's There's No Applause scene with the Red Lyrium time travel. And Vilgard, Varric. Tasha's scene where they lose their mother is haunting. Love rock paper scissors with Manfred, but more somber because he wasn't brought back in my run. I love how even though the companions in Dragon Age 2 are not true to one's sexuality, they still have different reactions based on if you are a female or male Hawke. How they handled the theme of and approach to the Fade through experiential discovery and theology of spirits and magic, tying in consequence, choice, adversity, and all the morally grey areas to be or had been. It's just remarkable how much the games impacted me in life. But it's not just the things we love, it's also the memories we made playing these games. Moments that made us smile, made us think. Moments that made us laugh because we were in a bit of a sticky situation. And moments that had a real impact on us. Hard to pick one. Even after hundreds of playthroughs, talking to each companion at the Battle of Denerim before facing the Archdemon, then running down as a soldier's Tiriwan, still gives me goosebumps. I will never forget the For Ferelden in the last act of Dragon Age Inquisition. It just gives me the urge to play the whole series every time I replay that scene, even in my head. Also, I love having your companions open up to you. Always feel so nice and that they care for me as I care for them. The three dwarves standing around talking in the Winter Palace. They mention that Orzammar has food shortages, hardships. Oh, do they wish Paragon Braska was here. I got so emotional after I heard that random ambient dialogue. My darling Broska, from castless scum to respected paragon of her people. Oh man, so many. Origins, love doing the proving. The Brute Mother, seeing her for the first time is crazy. I played the City Elf male Origin, and the line, like dogs, Shiani, is one of the hardest lines of all time. In Dragon Age 2, that quest where Hawk has to find that bag of murdered women's bones and goes back to the Templar, and the purple line is, yeah, watch out for a bunch of boneless women flopping through the streets. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. That line is hysterical. Bartrand's betrayal. Fenris's entire personal quest is incredible. Isabella scene, you know the one. The Arishok throwing the Viscount's head down the stairs is wild. And also, the death of Leandra. What a painful mission. In Dragon Age Inquisition, seeing the breach for the first time was just incredible. Cassandra and Varric's book scene, Dorian's, he tried to change me. Solus's moment with Lavellan on the balcony, the Crestwood scene. The start of Cole's personal quest is super funny if you're a solo villain, because it very much feels like, Dad said no, so I am going to ask Mum. Seeing the Nightmare and his giant spider thing, Corypheus, I have seen the throne of the gods, and it was empty. What an amazing line. The entire fall of Haven and the journey to Skyhold was so beautiful. All the scenes with your companions at the beginning of Trespasser, and the music for Dragon Age Inquisition was fantastic overall. But Lost Elf and Dark Souls theme are such masterpieces. Absolutely incredible work. In Veilguard, Lucanus' introduction scene was so awesome. Dude took out like 5 guys in a single sequence. Seeing Dorian! Siege of Weishaupt was such a fantastic mission from start to finish. Opening the door and seeing Gilly in the clouds? Getting to fight her twisted version of Razikel? Wow. Arlathan Forest was utterly beautiful. A lot of Arlathan, full stop. Lucagon coming up out of the water, Solus and Elgradon roasting each other, that had me by a chokehold. The Dreadwolf's transformation. When next we meet, may we be standing over Elgradon's body. Was a great line and so expertly delivered by Gareth David Lloyd. His performance as Solus was top tier. Tasha's scream when Shathan was killed. Their VA did such a good job on that scream. Everything about Johanna has and costs. The solo villain ending, I straight up sobbed. And seeing Felazon. Succession discussion at the end of Origins. Who gets to be king? Alistair. First time I went through that, I thought it was so well done, wrapping up all the good and bad decisions I had made throughout the game. I had thought, before battling Loghain, that Alistair would become king with Honora as queen and I would go fishing or some such. But Alistair wanted to execute Loghain. Best laid plans of mice and men. My single favorite moment is the Morrigan and Flemeth scene with Kieran in Dragon Age Inquisition. So after some thought, this would be my top 5 moments in Dragon Age. 1. Aveline's scene after All That Remains. It is my favorite scene in the entire series and it helped me in real life. 2. The Prison of Regret in Veilguard. It felt to me like the climax for my character. It was so good. A little background. I like to play Dragon Age as my character, so my decisions are all based on that character's personality, story, journey, and feelings. I was rotating the companions a lot based on their speciality, so Devrin was always with me when the Blight was concerned, and Nev and Harding were basically my left and right hands. So the choice between Harding and Devrin was never difficult for me because he was going to be in my team. And after losing Harding and Nev being so much on the end of the stick, Balara was the one chosen, and it was also her speciality in a sense. So having to unpack those decisions, and Varric was so tragic and good. They are my canon choices as well because of it. 3. When you have a high relationship with your companions and talk to them in Dragon Age Origins before the last battle. I like that in Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age 4 as well. Inquisition didn't do it, unfortunately. But Dragon Age Origins takes the cake 100%. Morrigan's line and Oghren. I also love the entire fight in Denerim that leads to the end. 4. The ending sequence in Veilguard. Choosing who does what, fighting into Winter, finding Solus there, finding your allies, the last stand against Solus. Again, the way I played the game, role-playing my character, it just felt like the puzzle pieces falling into place to me. It was an amazing experience. Since I'm talking about the puzzle falling into place feeling when role-playing in Dragon Age, I will have to talk about Dragon Age 2, because that was my feeling playing that game. It was like I was so in sync with my Hawk. It ended up being an amazing experience. I actually restarted the game because I was going to go for Fenris, but I was not really feeling my Hawk with him. She had so much more vibes with Anders, and I'm so happy I did it because the experience, the roller coaster, the story that Hawk ended up having was absolutely my favorite in Dragon Age. I could probably write an entire novel with the amount of favorite moments I've had throughout the series, so I'll just choose 2 for each entry. Dragon Age Origins, the Broodmother. To this day, the memory of my first encounter with it seared into my brain. The poem, a haunting echo whenever I remember what I would consider the most horrifying darkspawn. There has not been a monster in the Dragon Age series that has horrified me more. I really enjoyed the platonic bond my male dwarf noble ended up developing with Morrigan. One particular conversation where she mused how she wasn't expecting how much she'd end up trusting him. She did venture a bit and asked if things had developed a bit differently, if they would have been a thing, and he admitted it could have been possible under different circumstances. But she finished his sentence with the acceptance that there is already another, and respectfully accepted that. I don't know, I just really loved the clear friendship and trust that grew between those two by the end of the game. Dragon Age 2. Isabella returning with the Kunari book. It was heartwarming to see the bond clearly meant enough to her to take that risk for Hawk. And my mage Hawk telling the Arishok over my dead body when making it clear that they were not going to give up their friend just made the fight to come even more awesome. Kicking out Anders from the group even when I sided with the mages and spared his life. It was just the whole tragedy of the moment. Watching the friendship having completely shattered by the end to the point that my Hawk rather drive him off than fight side by side with him again. Dragon Age Inquisition. My big ol' Kunari charming Cassandra with candlelight and raunchy poetry. I just loved watching Cassandra snatch the book after it was cheekily offered to her and watching that giant of a man casually stroll behind her with a smile as she reads. The Wicked Grace game with most of the group. It was just great to see everyone gathered together with a game with Varric. Vilgard. Rook offering to keep company with Harding after hearing about her nightmares, sitting next to her and trying to turn on the charm, only for Harding to hum to herself and raise an eyebrow at Rook, bringing up the fact that they just offered to stay the night. Cue Rook getting a bit flustered and Harding shaking her head with a smile. And just about every verbal lashing Solas got from the group. Man deserved all of it. Still like him as an antagonistic character though. Nothing struck me more in the feels as deeply as the first time playing Inquisition after losing Haven. The cutscene culminating with our first view of Skyhold took my breath away. I was thoroughly invested in the story and caught up in the despair and uncertainty the characters were feeling. The sense of homecoming and relief was real for me. I also got really hyped about 2 other cutscenes. The one where the Inquisition is formed in Haven and the one where you gather your forces to march through the Arbor Wilds. Inquisition did a better job of giving us dynamic moments than the other games. The cutscene at the start of the Battle of Ostagar gets me so hyped every time I see it. It's definitely one of my favorite moments. Finding out about Liliana's past in Dragon Age Origins. You start the game by thinking she's an innocent little bard, and then, as she opens up about her past, you find out that she is actually a cunning veteran spy who has been spying on people longer than you have been waving a sword at rats. I still love her though. My favorite moment was in Dragon Age Inquisition at the end of the quest What Pride Had Wrought. If you decide to spare the ancient elves in the Temple of Mythal and do all the rituals as you're supposed to, then Ablas can be sided with. At the end of the quest, Ablas tries to prevent the Vera Bellasan, the Belisarios, from being despoiled, the one thing he and his people tried to preserve, by destroying it. The Inquisitor can persuade Ablas to share the knowledge. In the result, Ablas is freed from eternal duty. Solas tells him, Malas amalin nehalam Ablas. Something along the lines of, my apologies. Your markings on your face lost their meaning. May you find a different name, Ablas. In conclusion, Ablas, meaning sorrow, is free and has no purpose left in life, but still has the hope to find a new one. I find the scene to be very poetic, brilliant and inspiring. Such great writing of the character as a whole. My favorite memory was the first time I saw the 2 battle scenes at Ostagar and Origins. They were so well done for their time. It's not my favorite moment per se, but rather my most powerful one. In Origins, the tension was building as we raced to the top of the tower in Ostagar. When the beacon was lit, there was relief, but that was shattered as Loghain turned back and retreated. leaving Duncan and Kaelin to die, along with everyone else. It was a profoundly emotional moment. Shock, betrayal, outrage. It was the most visceral emotional response a video game has ever produced in me. And this is why, when the time came, it was an easy call. Alistair, chop off his treacherous head. A memory that really sticks with me was my first run in Dragon Age 2 with Anders blowing up the Chantry. My hawk had romanced him too, and I remember staring at my screen just thinking, what did you do? I did another run where I was a mage that was pro-circle, and ended with a rivalry with Anders. His actions at the end there were doubly poignant, as he recognized what he had become through his extremism. It's such a great beat for his character, and I don't think many people saw it in an average run. But that realization from him that he'd become an abomination was so memorable. If we're going silly, this one time in Inquisition when I was running around the hinterlands, the party just got attacked by everything at once. Mabari, human fighters, bears, and everyone went down. Except for dear sweet Solus, who I use as my healer/barrier guy. So I take control of him, and run. This poor bald dude was running around for 10 to 20 minutes from all these enemies when a bunch of wolves came along and started fighting the enemies, giving Solus time to revive the fallen team. He ran across the map being chased by every enemy imaginable, spamming barriers and potions, jumping for extra distance, before these awesome wolves came along and saved this dumb trickster god. Then, with everyone up again, fighting alongside these wolves, our battle was legendary. One wolf survived the fight. Fenrirel's last brain cell. Also, collecting plants, mineral shards, and Inquisition was the greatest joy. My favorite silly moment was when I dueled a Nug in Haven and lost. The Nug was at the edge of a cliff, so I tried to hit it with a maul. The game spazzed out, and I flew over the edge of the cliff, and I took fall damage. I also missed the Nug, so it was unharmed. Also, hearing Professor Kenrick expound on the archaeology in Thedas and how it relates to fate and spirits was so cool. So many. As I saw a Velmancer, you can imagine which ones, but the Avar throwing the goats over Skyhold's walls gave me breathing problems because I was laughing so hard. Also, first time in Dragon Age Origins when I go to the ruins to find the Warden contracts, and then there is suddenly Morrigan in the background. I got a jump scare from that. One of my most memorable moments is All That Remains from Dragon Age 2. It is one of the few gaming moments that's ever completely shattered me. On the other side of things, the one scene during Iron Bull's romance where everyone just starts walking in on them while Bull is buck naked makes me laugh every time. A few of my personal favorites, primarily from Origins. Talking to Severin in Origins about his past and letting him open up about his trauma. Morrigan telling my warden that she was a sister to her always meant more to me than the romance route for her. King Alistair dumping my elf warden when I was 12, making me cry real tears and reload my save, but never forgetting. Hawk's mother getting the bouquet of lilies. Fenris and Anders bickering, mages in glass houses shouldn't throw fireballs, and Shale squishing a chicken. Sorry if this is too personal, but it's an important story to me. When Dragon Age Inquisition came out, I was only 14 and was struggling a lot. I was playing the Envy Demon quest, where you choose the Templars, and I started having a panic attack because it was scary and some personal stuff was happening alongside it. I was crying and trying to keep playing to forget my worries, but it wasn't working. Until Cole started to say encouraging things in the Inquisitor's head. His voice was so calming and he was so uplifting. He genuinely talked me through my panic attack and I calmed down. I've never had a moment like that with a game before or since. I play a lot of games to calm down now, but never have I felt like a character was talking right to me. And I know he wasn't, but it felt that way. Ever since then, Dragon Age has been a special interest of mine, and each game changes me in different ways that I love. Oh man, reading through everyone's memories really hits home. What a wonderful journey through Dragon Age. Now it truly feels like goodbye. Thank you all so much for sharing your stories with me. I had a blast going through all of them, and I hope you feel the same way listening to all of them. Dragon Age, at its core, has always been about people. People overcoming struggle, dealing with loss, regret, anger. People experiencing love, happiness, friendship. People learning how to trust, growing up, discovering who they are. It is these characters in which we see parts of ourselves, and it is these stories that stay with us forever. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you liked this video, let me know by liking this video. Or if you've got more stories to tell, please share them with us in the comments. As always, a special thanks to my patrons. Your support truly means a lot to me. If you want to have a chat sometime, feel free to join my Discord server, follow me on Blue Sky, or make sure to tune in for my Dragon Age Veilguard streams. I've been streaming every week on Thursday at 3 PM CET or 9 AM EST. That's it for now though. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.